This is the Canna Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on The Canna Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's The Canna Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
Welcome back. I am Joyce Gerber, and we are recording the show today at the beautiful Broccoli Gallery right here in my hometown of Sharon, Massachusetts. And we even have an audience. Woo!
What? Oh, sorry. I was trying to find the applause button. There it is.
All right, so we are on the winter solstice, longest night of the year. Maybe have some witchy magic going on here in the Broccoli Gallery and with my friends who we'll be talking with today. So what do you think, Dave? Easy commute?
Yeah, I made it all the way from Foxborough. So, yeah. And, of course, I'm a Sharonite as well. So it's nice to see all the business brewing, as it were, on Route 1 here.
That's true.
Right up the street from the stadium.
When I was growing up here, there wasn't even a stoplight. So there's a lot more stuff going on in Sharon than
That's
when I was
why
here.
there were so many accidents in Sharon Center. Do you remember? We desperately needed a stoplight. Finally, somebody said, maybe there should be a stoplight there. Now we have like 3, maybe.
Progress.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if you've been noticing. We've only done a couple of shows in December because I'm giving myself a little chance to fill up for our 2024 slots, Dave. We got a lot of great guests coming up for 2024. We have a medical professional, we've got business investors, we've got advocates. I'm going to have a special panel of cannabis CPAs. I know that sounds fascinating, but this is a compliance industry.
Cannabis PAs?
Cannabis PAs.
Canna PAs? Right.
Canna PAs.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's a,
sure.
I may trademark that. So specialists, you need specialists, especially for the money. And these are business people we're talking to today. So they have a good person who's helping them figure this out because you want to make sure you're doing it right. And so here we are. And just welcome. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to our audience. Thank you for the listeners for sharing these stories. So together we're going to crush our stigma around cannabis and caregivers. That's our goal. So before we begin, let's see. You do anything special for the new year, Dave?
No, absolutely nothing. I mean, if I'm lucky, I get like 15 minutes to hang out with my son, who's home from college, but completely has his own life now, does not need dad, you know? It's sad.
Even though you're a Canada dad now, does he know this?
I don't know if he knows that.
Oh, we're going to share. It makes us so much better. And we have a couple of Canada parents, so we're going to talk about that. All right. I don't think I have much else. I'm not doing any culture corner. I guess.
Are your kids home for the holidays?
So my son Josh, who the music introduction was Josh Lampkin. He was here for a couple of weeks, but he's back in Nashville doing his thing. And my daughter lives with us, so yeah, she's always home now.
All right. So that's nice.
It is nice. And I wasn't into the whole empty nest thing. I'm glad they're back. Can I admit that on here? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, you admit it on every show. How desperately. I think I miss Josh at this point because he's the perfect kid. If you guys didn't know.
If you didn't know, we're not growing up. But now he's a great musician, and he's doing some work for the Canna Show. He's building that hemp guitar, which we've been talking about endlessly. I'm trying to hook up with Nican, if you're listening, Mark. And I want to get this, maybe do a tour of the hemp guitar at the different Nican shows, and then somehow figure out how we're going to raffle it off, auction it off, sell it to somebody who wants it, and make some money to support some of the causes that I'm involved with for Canna Moms, specifically helping make sure Canna Moms are safe and their stories are out there.
I'm still unclear. You play a whole set of Rolling Stones and Aerosmith songs, then you take it home and you smoke it, the guitar?
I think so, yeah.
No, you don't.
He might build a bowl into it. You can smoke it and play it.
That would be cool. Why not?
I think it's
multitasking.
I'm going to get some pictures up. We're going to be talking about it a lot more. All right. So, Dave, just thanks for hanging with me in 2023. I guess I just want to put that out there. You've been awesome. I don't see you that often in person, so this is nice.
It's great. Yeah. And the love is mutual. It's been quite a journey. You were like one of my first clients at Pod 617.
Oh, yeah?
We used to record in the studio, which you haven't been to in like 3 years now.
Sure
it's okay. I get to see it today. But the mission continues. The Canna Mom Show marches on.
And I've been teaching you lots of new things. So I feel like
That's true.
You've come a long way, Dave. I'm very proud of you
Oh,
from the
thanks.
early days of me and Amy and the, coming in and you're not quite sure what's going on. And now you can contribute to the conversation.
Imagine that. Yes, thank you. The token Canna dude on the show.
The Canna dude. All right. Thanks, Dave. All right. So I guess that's all we need. And now we're going to just jump into our story today before we wrap it up for 2023. All right. So I don't even have a big introduction today. I'm just here with my friends, Lynne and Brian Striar. They're here at the Broccoli Gallery, which is theirs in Sharon, Massachusetts. And I'm just going to let them share their own stories. So they are a couple. They've been together for a while. So I don't know. Let's just start. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. So you have a new venture. I know Kapnos. We're going to get to that. You have this here. But actually, maybe let's just talk a little bit about Kapnos and then kind of go backwards. Like, why did you choose that name? And what's your mission right now? And whoever wants to answer that first.
Well, first, we want to thank you and Dave for putting on the podcast. We love it. We look forward to it. So we appreciate everything that you're doing to support the cause. And we know that you're branching out into other causes as well. And we look forward to your insight and Dave's input on that stuff as well. So we thank you for that. And 2024 is going to be a huge year for us all. We're looking forward to it.
I agree.
But Lynne, you can start the story. This is a podcast for women, and I'm here just for the eye candy, I think.
Yeah. We need our token men once in a while. That's usually Dave's job, so he's glad to have company. Lynne, so why don't we just start? Like the company, and then we can kind of go backwards. How you met, how you figured out your love of cannabis, and how you got here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Kapnos Cannabis is our new company located in Sharon, Mass. We're a 2-tier cultivation. We just started to grow our little babies in the building about 6 weeks ago, so we're very excited about that. Things are looking lovely over there, nice and green. And
so, are you a natural cultivator? Are you a grower by trade, or is this something you've learned?
I am not, but we did hire a really fabulous, intelligent young man, Thomas Tweed, so we can have him.
We'll talk to him a little bit afterwards. We get through your story, but all right. So you're growing your new strain, and what's the mission? Why did you? There's a lot of businesses now in Massachusetts. So, what did you want to do with Kapnos? It's a little bit different, maybe. Or what's your mission?
Okay, so we, originally we started with 4 Daughters way back in the day.
And what was 4 Daughters?
4 Daughters Compassionate Care was our first run at our dispensaries.
And what year was that?
That was back in
2015.
Oh, so early, very early in Massachusetts. So
Yes.
medical only one.
Medical only,
In
yes.
2012, we applied as well in the first round of medical licenses. So cannabis has been something that Lynne and I have enjoyed all of our lives.
Yeah, why don't we just start at the beginning? So let's say
Yes.
you're a couple. How long have you been together?
41 years.
So quite a while. So you've had a long cannabis love story. And do you
Yes.
want to start? How did you meet and decide? Did you meet and discover cannabis together? Did cannabis bring you together? How did this really begin?
It definitely kept us together, for sure.
Both
I
found
think that's true,
cannabis
too.
before we found each other.
Okay.
And we
When did you meet?
met right after high school.
Oh, wow. So, okay.
So we've been together all that time.
And were you originally from Massachusetts? Is this your?
Yes, we both grew up in Newton, Mass.
Oh,
You
okay.
went to Newton South, and I went to Newton North.
Okay.
And
And you were a cannabis lover back in the day.
yes,
Yes. And
yes. I am a Crohn's patient, and
Okay.
so I've always had tummy issues, and it's always been something that's helped me more than any of the traditional medicines that they've ever.
And how, so you grew up, you're my age or my era. So you grew up with the, it's bad for you, kills brain cells. You're a stoner and a loser if you use it. So how did you figure
Yes.
out that it was helping you? And you kind of,
I just sort of stumbled upon it helping me,
Yeah.
and realized that it was really something that I needed to help me.
and this was when you were a young person, or is this when you were a little bit, because a lot of the stories I hear are people like, they're using it. They don't understand that it's actually helping them medically until they get a little bit older and they think about it more consciously. And were you sort of in that phase or?
I realized right away
Oh, you did?
because it's very helpful in helping my stomach aches
Mm-hmm.
and to help me create my appetite to eat, which are both two important things with Crohn patients. So I realized right away that it was something that was going to benefit me. And
how did your family know that this was something you were consuming when you were younger to help with your Crohn's?
No, not right away,
Okay.
of course. And then when they did find out, they took a little bit of convincing. But then they saw, how much it really helped me. So they were on board with that.
Which is such a kind of constant story in this industry. People who are able to have the fortitude I kind of talk about, like to sort of push off the negativity of what society is telling you, and they're listening to their own bodies. And then when they're better, the people who love them can see that it's helping them too. So,
Yes.
So what was were you more of a dude in high school?
I was a recreational user
Okay.
from high school. So,
Okay.
And I'm 61 years old almost. So
Were you getting in trouble for being on the pod, or did your family know? Or
no, I had very understanding parents. They
Okay.
preferred cannabis use over alcohol.
That's very enlightened for the era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they encouraged me to sit in the basement with my friends and just chill out and not be driving around drinking and getting into trouble. So that was kind of, what we would do. We'd hang out. And
So you're kind of like so I'm the same age, and my parents would not have been very understanding, I don't think. But I have met a lot of the women I really interviewed earlier on were from California, who seem to have a whole different lifestyle out there than the people in Massachusetts. So you are sort of living in that it's
for sure.
it's illegal, but you're not going to we're not going to put you in jail, and you're not going to go to hell, or they were
Right.
sort of okay with it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and we got through the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
And growing up, I would call myself a legacy market person.
Okay.
And 2010 is when we really dove into the medical aspect of cannabis, because our sister-in-law had a brain tumor,
Okay.
glioblastoma, and she was using cannabis to medicate. We were getting that from
Okay.
dispensaries in California in 2010.
Okay.
It wasn't legal here in Mass.
Right.
So that's when we realized, hey, there's something to this.
So you were comfortable with the plant, obviously. Did you grow it back in the day, or were you just more consumers, or what was your?
I didn't start growing until we passed medical here in Massachusetts.
that's a new skill set.
And once we did that, in 2012, I was
Doing your okay.
doing my thing.
All right. So in 2000, I didn't know this. So 2010, you're getting some. Are you getting products that are smokable? Are you getting tinctures, or what sort of things are you finding that are working for your sister?
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the
We
above.
would get the Federal Express from her friends in Cali,
Okay.
and it just the quality of life for her. She was it was a death sentence for her, but she was able to smoke. She'd smile, she'd eat, and it really helped.
And were you able to share this with her medical doctors here in Massachusetts? Was she in Massachusetts? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they were okay with her doing it
they
because
were.
they saw that it was helpful for her, and we just thought that everybody should have access to that. So we really
Well, that is
that's
the real.
our push to do the medical.
So that's your why. So that's a big why. That's huge.
Big why.
So in 2010, I was diagnosed with cancer as well,
Oh. Okay.
and took it upon myself to go out to California. I attended Oaksterdam University
Yeah. No.
for a while.
Oakdale. Yeah. Yep.
And I learned a lot about the plant.
Okay.
I met a lot of great people out there. Still have friends from out there. And then came back here and saw the the movement was starting to take place.
So when you were Oaksterdam, so what sort of things were you? What did you think you were going to learn, or what were you really learning out there that you maybe didn't expect?
Cultivation primarily,
Okay.
and the business of cannabis,
Okay.
because the movement was starting to happen. Rhode Island in 2010 approved medical and was taking applications.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually involved with a group in Rhode Island to apply in the first round there.
Okay.
So
We're pretty close. So we're in the south part of Massachusetts, basically. So we're pretty close to Rhode Island.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Not
so-
that Rhode Island's that big or that far away, but.
and it was, I had come back from Oaksterdam, so I had, now had a lot more knowledge than a lot of the suits that were trying to get the licenses in Rhode Island in particular at that time. It was very political.
I mean, it kind of frustrates me when I met people. So I started in 2017, 2018, and we meet all these people who thought they're going to get rich in cannabis, but were so proud of telling me they didn't consume it or use it or understand it in any way, and it just seemed really wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
And,
Yeah.
And back in that round too, it was, you had to have your team of lawyers and doctors and your political people. You had to assemble this humongous team to look.
All right.
And
So you have your own medical issues that you're dealing with. Were you talking to your own doctors about what were you using or how you were consuming?
I was not.
Okay.
But after that trip to California, like you said, it's so different out there, and the people just sit around talking about cannabis, and you come back here and you scratch your head and you go, why isn't this happening here? And we've gotten there. It's now discussing cannabis with people at lunch.
Oh, everyone.
Even if they're not in the industry, it's becoming very common.
I'm sure everyone walks up to you and they have a story for you now.
For
They yell
sure.
across the street, "Hey,
For
Brian!"
Sure. For sure.
I sure did.
All right, so you're into this early medical. So who else were you
Right.
seeing? You said the suits were coming in. Were you seeing who else was trying to get into the industry? And you're in this community. Was there any pushback here in Sharon or wherever you thought?
No, Sharon was very receptive
Oh, they
to
were?
the
Okay.
medical concept.
Okay.
And we were able to get a host community agreement very early. I mean, it was helpful that we've lived here for a long time, and our family is very philanthropic in the Jewish community in particular in Sharon.
My Jewish cannabis, my Jews and weed. I have a lot of Jews and weed.
So we had a good reputation, and we built a solid team when we came in 2015 and reapplied.
Okay.
And we were successful there, and then started to try and raise $20 million for this dream that we had, and that became probably the hardest thing in the whole journey of the business was trying to raise money.
I mean, capital, we talk a lot about this. I mean, even just banking. So I talk about how when I started the podcast in 2019, I couldn't get a checking account. And I don't touch the product, sell the product, do anything with the plant,
Right.
and no one would give me a checking account. So these are, you're earlier and you're a plant touching cultivator. So you must have had a lot of banking issues. Is there anything, stories?
We had no issues with the banks because they wouldn't talk to us.
That's
meant-
right. We were funding it ourselves in the beginning. And
So you were
then-
really, really early pioneer. So when your family, the people sort of around you kind of watching you go through this and nobody knows what's going on. I mean, no one's done it before. So you kind of do it on your own. Were people
Yes.
surprised? Do you think, I don't know, I guess if you had understood how hard it was going to be, do you think you would have jumped in?
I think so. just
You had a hard
because-
why.
yeah.
You had a big why. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So you go on
Right.
this journey and who were you trying to raise money from and who was responsive to you? Who wasn't?
Yeah, so we always thought raising money would be the easiest thing
Oh, really?
for us once we got the golden ticket, the license,
Right.
and the host agreement and everything. And it was legal. We thought it was going to be the next big thing, and had always anticipated friends and family. But once you start going around trying to raise, it's a very difficult job to ask people for money and to stick to it and hound them. It's not in my DNA to do it. It takes a special kind of person
I
that
agree.
can go out and raise money.
Yeah.
And it's a full-time job.
Definitely a full-time
And
job.
I was doing 3 other full-time jobs at the time. So
So through some other people that we knew in the cannabis industry, we met some investors
Okay.
and started plugging along with our mission.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, our investor that we found ended up not having the money they thought they said they were going to have. So we found ourselves stringing along 4 different rents and properties.
So how many? So if
Money going out
If
and
people
no
don't
money
understand
coming
how this
in.
works, so in Massachusetts specifically, you need a host agreement from the community before you can even go get your license from the Cannabis Control Commission.
Yes.
And then when you find the property, you are paying rent on all these things to keep them yours until you actually
Yes.
get the license. So I don't know if any of these have changed at this point. I know they're trying to change some of the host agreements. Plus, you owe fees and all sorts of other things to the community. So,
And all the legal fees
and
that
all the
go
legal.
with it.
And so, how long were you kind of in this moment of
It was 2 years
2
of
years?
carrying everything and all the bills and people calling to collect their money and all the stress that goes with it, leveraging all the money that we had. It was a real big leap of faith.
Yeah.
And it happened in the history of cannabis
Yeah.
in Massachusetts in particular. We got caught up in the wave. Like, we were approved for medical in 2015, and while we're trying to raise money, recreational passed.
Right.
And now we also have a dispensary in Plymouth that we were working on, paying rent for, but it wasn't built out. But both Sharon and Plymouth were yes towns at the ballot in 2015. So now we're not just medical, we're recreational.
Okay.
So the whole world opened up to us at that point until Sharon and Plymouth decided they would let the residents of the town have another bite at the apple.
Yeah, medical's okay, but we're not so sure about adults, so let's vote again.
Oh, okay. So again, we're a home rule. We're a home rule state. Our local communities have a lot of power to decide what they want to do. So there's because I know in the beginning a lot of towns stepped up and said no, we don't want them in here. So you had to vote.
Right,
so we now...
Yeah, and then we had to go back and vote again and fight the ban in both towns.
And while we're trying to raise money for, we don't know if we're medical or we're going to be rec.
Yeah.
And we're paying rent on all these different properties. So it was just an awkward time in the history here in the state.
But you were in it. I mean, you're pioneer. You're going through the different phases. Going from medical, going to adult use, changing the regulations. This is a compliance industry. You were doing everything right. You didn't just have a pipe dream. You had a team of professionals who were charging you money to make sure that you were getting through. And you had to be good neighbors. I say this all the time about dispensary cultivations. You have to be extraordinarily good neighbors in your community or they're going to get mad at you. And you live here. So
correct. Right. They all know where to find us.
They all know where to find you. All right. So so during the vote, did it get ugly? Did people not want it? Was it?
There was some segments in town where there was definitely, we had to spend thousands of dollars for the lawn signs and get people to stand out in front
and
of the
tent. What were people's? Was it just the normal fear people have for cannabis?
A lot of that fear mongering. The sky is falling. And
the children.
Reefer madness. Yeah.
Those were the only issues.
It's always the children.
Exactly.
All those people that were against us, we'd like to get together for coffee with them and say, we see nothing has happened.
Yeah, and you're getting revenue for your community. All those fees that you've been paying. I know that STEM Haverhill is pushing back on this in a law case that all the terrible, horrible things that you thought were going to happen that you needed this extra money for are not happening, and people are feeling healthier. I mean, they're feeling better. I'm sure you must be getting a lot of credit from your community. So, all right, so you're going through this. You're going through
a new town hall and a new high school. And we've contributed to those things. So
it's nice because Sharon is is like 98% residential, and we have very little commercial revenue.
Right.
So that was one of the things that helped.
So do you think so that did pass? So people agreed, and all right.
Yeah. So a year, so late in the summer of 2017. I guess. So, and that was monumental for us,
right?
Because then we were able to talk to people with a business pro forma that included recreational and medical, and what that looked like.
And so, just in terms of you personally, it's like I understand as a consumer, medical, I'm not paying the taxes, but in terms of setting up your facility, are there different? Again, this is a very compliance focused industry. So, are there different compliances for medical and recreational or adult use, whatever you want to call it?
Not so much.
Okay.
I mean, on the dosage.
The dosage is different, right? Okay, that's true.
But pretty much, I think everything is pretty very similar.
Okay. All right, so it passes, and then you're still holding on to the licenses, and you're...
Yeah, but now we're talking to multi-state operators that want to come into Massachusetts. We're talking to family offices that are interested in coming in. People that actually have money.
Right.
Not the vision that we had envisioned in the beginning. We had always thought it was going to be Lynn and I.
Mom and pop and family oriented, bring our 4 daughters in.
Yeah, before that's where the name came from.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We haven't even hit on that yet. We do have 4 lovely adult daughters.
That we raised in Sharon.
And how old are they?
34, 30, 32, 29, and 26.
All right, well, we can get back to the girls and your canna parenting when we get through the story. All right, so here so you got your licenses. You
So
have approval from the town of Sharon, the city of Sharon.
Yep, and we're sitting down with whoever is interested, and we ultimately,
Chose to
out
work
of
with.
necessity, really, because we knew we weren't going to be able to raise the $20 million that we needed. We did a deal with Verano, who's a multi-state operator.
Okay.
They've been nothing but great for us. They've done a wonderful job fulfilling
Nice.
that end of the business, for what we propose for the town and the residents and the neighboring towns. It's a very busy store. It's a great location.
Okay.
Zen Leaf is the brand here that Verano goes under.
So that is your dispensary that you are now owning, or do you still connect? How are you connected to that?
We're the local licensee.
Local licensee, okay.
So we're very silent on what happens there, but we are still involved.
All right, so that got open. All right, so now let's move forward. So then this space that we're in, can you tell us a little bit about this space, what the vision of this space is? I know we talk a lot about consumption lounges in Massachusetts. I don't know where they are. I think they should look more like community centers, with activities, which is kind of what this space looks like, that you come in, you have friends, you aren't alone consuming. You can do it during the middle of the day if you're a mom or an elderly person or someone. Do a class and then go home. That's what I think. But, let's talk about your gallery. What's here and what's your vision?
Well, the broccoli is Lynn's other child, so I'll
Okay.
let her-
So the Broccoli Gallery here in Sharon was birthed in the idea that it was going to help us promote Kapnos
Okay.
as a brand. It was going to help us to set ourselves aside from the other brands and help to establish our culture and our family and our business.
So that was like so it's a mark, not a mark, but this is what Kapnos wants to be, and this is something that represents that vision. So yeah.
Yes, and at the same time, it is a legitimate art gallery. We partnered with a friend of ours from childhood, Carl McLaurin.
He's got some beautiful pieces. I was here a little while ago when you did the breast cancer event. So
Yes.
really beautiful art pieces. It's so sunny and lovely here. It's in the middle of the day. It's really beautiful.
Thank
Can I ask a stupid question? Why is it called the Broccoli Gallery?
Well, the broccoli is a reference to cannabis. It allows us to market it on social media without getting blocked.
Oh, see?
You learned?
If you had been the broccoli mom, the banks wouldn't have given you any problems.
We did
Very
it.
clever.
It is, and again, that's a whole nother ridiculous marketing thing for cannabis. We have our audience members know this really well, that, we try to do some workarounds without being too sneaky, but you want to make sure people understand what you're talking about. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
broccoli gallery.
and we encourage cannabis use here at the Broccoli Gallery.
Yeah, we are cannabis friendly. And so
to the
we do
extent
have.
that the law allows us to be, which is, and as a side note, as a funny anecdote, we have 4 daughters, and our youngest nickname is Broccoli Rob. Her name is Robin, so we would also call her Broccoli. And now once we named the gallery, the Broccoli Gallery, her sisters are like, "Hey, what are you doing naming the place after us?" So it got us in,
Girl,
Yes.
it's like,
Girls keeping score.
we're like, no, it's slang for cannabis. We had as a
so like,
method
yeah.
to
All right,
our
I'm
madness.
one of 4 kids. I'm down with that. That's hysterical. All right, so you have this space, and then
So this beautiful gallery, yes, that we filled with this amazing art from Oak Hill Consulting Group, and they are mostly artists of color because that is something that's important to us to represent the.
Yeah, and I would like to back up a little bit to say that as part of Lynn and our mission, for a long time we've been mentoring social equity and economic empowerment applicants that come out of the cohorts that the CCC is.
and I know, and you were just involved. We just talked a little bit about the Economic
EON.
Opportunities Network. Is that what EON?
Yes.
Yeah. So you were
EON.
you were very
Right.
involved with that. Yeah, that's one of
Yes.
your organizations you support.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely,
We're big fans of EON, and
and all that they do for the economic empowerment and social equity
And-
applicants. And
Which again, I think this,
community.
if you don't know anything about how these dispensaries owners are working, they have to be really say it again, really good neighbors. And you have to commit to things that other businesses, a shoe business doesn't have to do this. Even a liquor business doesn't have to say, I am going to support the new firehouse, or I'm going to like give all the kids who are playing baseball new T-shirts, or whatever they're asking these communities. Are like, cannabis stores.
They don't, but we're breaking through in a new industry here. And
so we're being extra nice neighbors and making sure that we're seen in a different way that maybe they don't understand cannabis would be seen in. So you're really
to help us normalize.
Exactly.
Yes.
And again, if we can I talk a lot about the plant as a caregiver. This industry should be built in her image as a caregiving industry. Not all the big, and I know you're involved with some MSOs, but we also know there's some businesses that aren't doing that. And you are really kind of following through on what you're saying you wanted to do and what you are doing. So that's really, that's powerful. And the people who are doing the right should be supported, right?
Yes,
for sure. And part of our diversity plan with Kapnos is to offer 50% of our product from Kapnos to economic empowerment applicants and social equity applicants. Give them a chance to
grow their business.
And it again, I'm not sure why it's so expensive. That's a whole nother podcast to talk about why is it so expensive to be in this industry. But if you don't have the capital, you don't have the resources, you're not going to be able to kind of move forward. And it's a very hard industry to raise money in, partly because of the banking, partly because of the business model, partly because it is. So to have people out there who are actually willing to sort of step forward and do this work is, living in, that whole like scarcity mindset. A lot of us live in that. You are not living in that. You're actually living something different. So that's really a beautiful sentiment to put out
we
there.
try and offer any tidbit of advice that we can and tell our story and some of the
learn from our mistakes.
And so let's talk about Kapnos. So this is sort of you've been doing this for quite a long time. You've gone through a lot of the history. I mean, like you are the pioneers in Massachusetts, and now you're here with a new venture. So you can just talk a little bit about more what's going. Is Thomas here? Tommy? Oh, yeah. Maybe we'll bring a cultivator in a couple of minutes to talk about.
Kapnos is a Tier 2 cultivation facility.
Okay. And just explain what a Tier 2 is.
5 to 10,000 square feet of canopy.
Okay.
So a smaller facility.
And how much? I don't even know what the question is. How much can you produce?
We hope to produce 3,000 to 4,000 pounds a year.
Okay.
Harvesting every few weeks. Actually, it'd be better to bring Thomas in for this.
You want to give us a little cultivation talk about what's going on with the? Sure. Come on up.
How do you want to do this?
We can take if you want to take Brian's, I guess, and then we'll bring it back at the end. We're doing a little shift over. We should have like music. Do, 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 do. Welcome.
Thank you.
There we go. We have a professional working with us. How did I? So welcome, Thomas.
Yep, Tom.
Tom. All right. So welcome. So you're you're the lead cultivator at the
Director
Kapnos?
of Cultivation for
And
Kapnos.
so sort of how did you get into cannabis and how did you learn how to grow and what are you doing? And I will say I've been trying to grow my own for years. I suck at it. I'm trying again. I don't know what is wrong with me. I can only grow in children, so maybe I should take some pointers. So yeah, how did you get into it? And
trying. Well,
Okay.
I started smoking at a young age, and you're buying weed, and
Necessity.
Like, well, why don't I just try growing it myself? So I grew a couple plants in the backyard.
Did you grow up around here?
Yeah, I grew up in Central Mass. In
Okay. So,
Sherburne.
all right. So did your parents know that you were growing in the backyard? Or?
No, the neighbors did though.
Oh, they, okay.
So I was growing a couple plants outside. Didn't really know what I was doing.
And how did you get your seeds? How do you even know how to begin?
I just had some bunk weed that had some seeds in
Back
it.
in the day, you could just shake it out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just grew a couple plants. Didn't know that there was difference between males and females. Had no idea what I was doing.
And it's pretty. I didn't know it was pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These gorgeous plants. So got a couple harvests under my belt.
Okay.
And I ended up going to school in Colorado, University of Colorado.
All right.
I had a neighbor that was a caregiver
All
and
right.
started helping them out, and then never really thought I'd end up growing weed. Ended up moving back home. Next thing I knew, I ended up getting a job at one of the first medical dispensaries in Massachusetts at Airmont, and from there it's bloomed.
Awesome. All right. So you're a natural green thumb. And all right. So what's going over at Kapnos? How do you... I have actually been in some grow facilities. They look like Willy Wonka factory to me. Everything is like, you have to be clean. You have to your hoodies on. You got to like go through each little section. Every room is a little bit different. So just if you want to give an overview of what it looks like and what you're growing and why you've chosen to grow those plants.
For sure. So usually, facility, I tell people it's an indoor farm, but it's also a medical facility. So
Okay.
farms are very dirty.
Mm.
Medical facilities have to be very clean.
Very clean, yeah.
So we keep it very clean. We have our uniforms. We're growing about 15 different strains right now.
15, okay.
Yeah, which is manageable.
And is it a 2-tier? How do you? what
We
is it?
have so our veg and our mother room where you start the plants
Mhm.
are only single tiered with LEDs. Our flower rooms are 2-tiered LED.
Okay.
So that means we have 2-tiered stacked plants. So we have about a foot off the ground. We have our first tier, and about 7 feet above that, we have a second tier of plants. So we
Okay.
can grow twice as many.
Okay.
Um,
And were you involved with, and there's a lot of minutia, but were you involved with the lighting decisions? I know there's like a lot of decisions for each, every facility, there's so many decisions for everything, but just the grow room must have a million different decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had a consultant come in and help, and I helped kind of finish the job with them.
Okay.
So the big thing with these places is how to keep environmentals steady, right?
Mhm.
You always want it about 74 degrees when lights are on. Lights get very hot, so you need to have that climate be perfect while you have the perfect.
So if
humidity
it's too hot, what will happen to it?
Too hot, you can grow mold.
Oh, mold. And what's a big one? Okay. And too cold?
Too cold, you can also grow mold.
All right, it's mold. Well, I had a microbiologist on the show once, and the things she knew about it, like, I don't want to know about any of that. I don't.
Yeah. So you really want to keep it the perfect temp and the perfect
Okay.
humidity for the plants and keep them nice and happy in an indoor grow like this.
Okay. And like, so just to grow, you say you're harvesting how many times a year?
We're harvesting every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. And how long does a plant take from seed to harvest?
From seed to harvest is about 14 weeks.
Oh, that's quick.
Yeah.
That's fine. Wow. Okay. And what are you getting off of each plant? How does that work?
I usually get a third of a pound off each plant.
Right. I always say I talk about having my cannabis awakening in Colorado back in 2016, but the thing that really was the most awakening part was going into the grow facility.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a dude on his couch eating Cheetos. He knew all the minutia, what the lighting, the water, the temperature. Like there's a lot to know about this to make sure the plant grows properly.
Yeah, you got to know a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of HVAC, all the while also knowing, your horticulture.
And you got to make sure there's no mold.
It's a science.
It
and
is a
each
science.
strain has a different recipe to make it grow perfectly. So.
Yeah. Okay. So she said you're about 15 strains you're growing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you decide which ones you think you want to grow? What are your
So,
parameters?
We talked with Lynne and Brian about this, that we kind of want to grow some newer strains, but also some old school strains too.
And do you base it on THC, terpene? How do you decide what it is that you're looking for?
It's a little bit of all of it,
Okay,
right? Some
alright.
that are definitely high in THC, but also some that have more of a broader cannabinoid profile.
Okay.
Something that we can all kind of agree on, something that you can smoke all day
Mhm.
versus something that, a couple hits and you're ready for bed.
And were you, so again, you started in the medical world, obviously, so
Yes.
Lynn can stop in. So when you were trying to figure out what strains to grow for the medical population, are they any different than what you're really growing for your adult use? Is that a decision? And do medical people come to you for specific strains? How does that work?
Mostly they're coming to us and saying that they have a certain problem or an ailment, and then we're trying to match them
Okay.
to a strain that would be helpful for them.
Okay. And that's sort of how you're doing in the.
Yeah, so there's certain strains that, if you're looking for increased appetite, we could grow blueberry pie that, anybody here can smoke and you'll end up eating all day. Or
Okay. And what is it? So I know a little bit about. So what is it about blueberry pie that is the thing that you think is helping people get their appetite back? And how and if they can't find, this is what I'm always concerned with, or I think about a lot. So I can never tell what's really the thing that I love about it. And I find a strain I love, and I try to figure out the terpene profile and the THC, all of it, and then they don't have it.
then they don't have
And
it.
I try to
Yep,
find something that's
the
comparable,
problem.
and it's like very irritating to me. So how do you figure out what's in these, what you're growing, and how do you figure out if something else is comparable? Do you go by the terpene? Do you go by the cannabis?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah,
It's that entourage effect with
Right.
the terpenes and, the cannabinoids all together. And with that, it's up to the person itself
Yeah.
to try it out, which is the difficult part.
And I think it's a part of it is intention too. I think sometimes when you're, but all right. So you,
And then the testing lab to give you all the accurate data and to help you dial it in and keep it consistent.
so so back in the day, you probably weren't testing anything, but you kind of knew this. You know what you knew. You know what you liked to grow, and you knew what it smelled like. You knew what it felt like? And are you surprised now that you have to send everything up for testing? Like what's coming back?
Yeah, I'm not that surprised, but
Okay.
I'm glad we have to do it too, right?
Okay.
It's something that kind of levels the playing field. And it's good to know as a consumer too, right? To know that you know,
Absolutely.
somebody's not spraying some crazy chemicals and
Oh,
just,
yeah.
you know, your product's not full of heavy metals
Yeah.
or...
All right, so someone is coming in. I have a lot of my friends who don't know anything about flour. When I say flour, they think I'm talking about flour, like literally flour.
Well, they are just as pretty.
They are.
Yeah.
So when people come in, what should they be looking for? You know, it's a little bit hard to figure out what you're buying because everything's packaged and tied up. But if they get it home, what should it look like? What should the bud smell like? How should it be sticky? Like, what are things that people should actually be thinking about when they're bringing their flour home?
Yeah, so when you open it up, you definitely should get a good aroma.
Mhm.
And then the feel of it is, you know, really matters. So it should be a little bit spongy,
Okay.
just a little bit. If you pick it up and you hold it and it breaks apart super easily, it's too dry.
It's too dry. Okay.
And if you pick it up and you can, you know, stick it against the wall, it might be a little bit
Too
too wet.
All right, and that's from the curing. How do you get that perfect bud?
From a dry cure process. So
Okay.
you know, we'll dry and cure it for 2 weeks in our dry room at about 60 and 60, as they say, which is 60 degrees at 60% humidity.
Okay.
And then we cure it in our, we have a special bags to cure them in
Okay.
at 60% humidity.
All right. And the humidity height is important. Why? Mold or
Yeah,
okay.
mold.
Oh, is it all mold?
It's always mold.
Wow, mold. All right.
Well, not just mold, because you also, at that certain humidity, you'll have optimal amount of your cannabinoid profile with the terpenes.
All right. And then I don't know, just a person like, so what do you, now that you know so much, the minutia, what do you find is really the things that you love that you maybe didn't understand before? What kind of terpenes or maybe the content? Is there anything you've learned from having to test everything and so you actually know what you're consuming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what was surprising is finding all the different terpenes within the plants themselves,
Mhm.
right? And how they work with, you know, just THC, CBD, CBN, and all those. I found to be wild.
Yeah. And are you breeding? I know people are talking a lot about CBN now for sleep. Are you breeding any sort of plants specifically for sleep issues?
We're not breeding any plants yet, but
Oh, what?
yeah, we hope to. The issue with breeding plants is you have to bring male plants into a building.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it gets a little tricky.
You don't want those boys around. I heard about that.
Troublemakers.
They are troublemakers. Yeah, let me see, where am I? Oh, actually, this time is going by. All right, so I'm making a lot of noise, Dave. And just like a personal question, sometimes I ask people, what is your favorite thing to consume now? And have you found like growing cannabis has changed your relationship with it, like all the time? I mean,
No.
you're with it all the time?
I mean, I've always loved growing, like I said, blueberry pie or just smoking a sour diesel, something that you can smoke all day is always really nice. And I do enjoy edibles too. I like really high CBD and low THC
Okay.
edibles are my go-to as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas, for joining
Yes, thank you
us
for
and
having me.
sharing what you know. I'm going to bring
Yep,
Brian back
yep.
to going up and
Thank you, Thomas.
come on down because we're going to be having
Thank
some.
you.
Obviously knows what he's doing. All right. I think we're just coming up on time. All right. Not yet.
I know that's your filler music.
Oh, that's my transition
Yeah,
music. I
that's-
thought I'm not used to doing live shows. All right. So here we are. Thank you for joining us. I guess just back to Kapnos. Like again, we talked a lot about your social equity work. We talked about being a woman in cannabis. Oh, actually, we didn't talk about parenting. All right. So your girls are adults now.
Yes.
What was your relationship with cannabis when they were younger, and how were you when you had pretty progressive cannabis background?
Heavy consumer.
Did-
4 daughters.
But we did keep it private from them when they were young.
Oh, you did?
know.
Okay.
They were a part of the DARE program when they were growing up.
Oh, they were.
So that, they ran that through the Sharon.
So
public
I've
school
actually met
system.
people in the industry who are leaders in their high school. So were they actually in there, or they just had to be there?
It was just something that everybody had to do when they were in.
And
that
so were they
school.
concerned about you? Like, what did they?
We didn't want to put them into a position where they would have a conflict, so
Okay.
we kept that private from them
Okay,
until they were older, and we could explain it to them and they could understand.
that's funny. So I had a couple of weeks ago, I had a woman on, and she was talking about how her and her husband used to smoke in the basement, and just didn't think the kids knew. And one day her daughter was like 7 or 8, said, "How come our house always smells like skunk?" So, yeah, the kids always. Yeah. And now, so I also talk about how I had a late cannabis, awakening. And then, once my kids were teenagers, I told them everything I knew was wrong. They were excited about that. And then during COVID, we were really nice to each other. I would much rather be in lockdown with a stoner than a drinker. That's what I learned. And
For sure.
I think just in terms of marriage, I've been married for many years, over 32 years. And we talk to each other. We sit on the porch and we talk to each other. And I just think it's been really good for us. So this is my couples therapy session. So do you think it's been good for you, just sort of family relationships? Yeah.
For
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it makes you a more docile parent, more patient parent, and partner as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that of our 4 daughters, 3 of them consume cannabis. One doesn't, and the one that doesn't should consume cannabis. I think it would help her immensely.
Maybe it's like the reverse, the kids always wanted to use it because we said it was so bad and dangerous. And now kind of my joke is that these kids are raised by the canna moms I know. It's just a thing. They don't care about it. And maybe it makes it so uncool they don't even want to use it. I don't know. It goes the other direction.
Yeah, well, we've been fortunate enough to, again, go through this time in history where cannabis is being accepted the way it is now. And it's a lot easier to talk to your kids about it. And I think it will be a better overall for society that this is happening, and more dialogue between parents and kids. It will help. It won't hurt things, that's for sure.
No, this is it's a hopeful thing in all the kind of drama that we've been going through. When we talk a lot about kids having anxiety and everything that they've been through, and this is, I also talk about not everyone has access to medical care. This is something we seem to be forgetting, and that cannabis has always been used by people for medical. I mean, yourself,
Yes.
for a long time, even without medical professionals on board. But there are a lot of people, my mother I talk about, she just was so nervous about it because she didn't understand how it worked with her other medications. Her doctors did not understand how it worked either. So she was very afraid to even try it. So I think this next generation sees it. It's a tool in the toolbox. We're normalizing it by talking about it, and it should just be another tool.
Yes,
For sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. And our generation as well that doesn't want to smoke, but the edibles and the balms and the tinctures they're really something special. And we've turned on a lot of senior citizens to cannabis, and that you would never think would try it. And it
Use the sobs so that they can help with their arthritis, or the gummies that help them, just feel overall better.
Yeah, I think I carry a lot of the Healing Rose. I'll give her a shout out. I love the Healing Rose. I get her samples and I give them out to people, and then it's like a gateway drug for them. They're like, oh,
Yes.
what else you
crazy,
got?
right?
But again, women my age and older, we know the least about cannabis. We probably need it the most. We are allowed to drink and take pharmaceuticals, but are still, again, going into a dispensary. My friends still feel a little uncomfortable, and you can see how it is to come into a dispensary. You have to show your ID several times. You don't necessarily know what products you want. There's a lot of stuff there, so it's a little overwhelming. So we're doing that too. Us, I mean, your friends. What do your friends say to you now?
That's where the bud tenders come in
Yeah.
to help people, help them to figure out which product is best for them, and to help them have a nice, calm and wonderful experience.
Positive, because again, if you don't have, I don't know what your friends are saying, if that they thought before, but you guys are a really good. Again, I play tennis, I wear pearls, I talk about cannabis all day long, and I'm bringing people into this world
Yes.
that wouldn't necessarily think they want to be here. So I don't know if you're seeing that as well with your people you're seeing in Sharon
So
and
yes,
other people.
people are feeling much more comfortable to come into the Zen Leaf facility to pick up whatever they need.
For sure.
It's
All age demographics are, and a lot of people are trying for the first time and enjoying it, and saying it's not what
they were told.
Nothing I should be
And
afraid of.
Exactly. You shouldn't be afraid of it. And these people are out there telling you that too. All right. So we're actually up on time. Let's see. Kapnos, what's the next step? What's happening with you? Where's it going to be? What's going on?
We should be hitting the shelves of the dispensaries around the beginning of March with flower and pre-rolls.
Are you doing pre-rolls? All right. And what are some of your
Very
favorites?
exciting.
We have cherry pie going over there.
Okay.
We have Sunday driver, which we like a lot. We have a super booth, which is really
I love
popular
super
right now.
booth. Yeah.
Real tasty. I like the fruity.
I like the fruities too. Yeah.
Cultivars.
All right, so
I
you're going
lean
what you
that
like.
way.
Yeah.
That's what we got first round.
That's the beauty of it. And how are you feeling? How's your health? Are you?
Very good, thank you.
That's
Yeah,
good, good.
really great.
Yeah. And yours are. So now that you know how to use this, have you found other products that work better for your Crohn's? Obviously, you've been doing this for a while, but
I
yeah?
have,
Yeah.
yes. But usually smoking
Yeah.
is the best.
and
for
how
my
and
stomach.
are you involved with Crohn's organizations at all to talk about this? Are they open to hearing what you have to say?
I've been a part of a few groups.
Okay.
But nothing to speak of.
All right. Well, we're out there. You're changing the world by just being yourself. So thank you for joining us. And what's the
Thank
best
you.
way people want to come out, find you, reach you, connect with you?
Well, you could
Have an
look-
event. Have an event here. I don't know. It's a beautiful space. What's the
Yes,
best way
you
to
can
reach you?
find us on Instagram, Kapnos Cannabis, and you can find the Broccoli Gallery on Instagram as well. Find out some things that are coming up for us. We've got some exciting things happening
Oh
here.
yeah. What do you want to do? A shout out? Do you want to do any shout outs for 2024? Or that you can think of?
2024, yes.
Just we've been working with the Whitaker Group.
They're very good, I hear.
They are the best.
Awesome. They've been working with us for about a year on the brand launch.
Okay.
And building the brand awareness. And we've been attending all their events and taking space out at their events. So we've been really thankful for what they brought to the table. We will be at NECAN in March.
Excellent. I'll be there. Yep.
When we roll out with product, we'll be there giving away lighters.
All right. Well, I'll
As
be
far
there.
as
when
we know,
Yeah, lighters. There'll be lighters, people. All right.
And the
so-
Broccoli Gallery will be having some events where we'll be highlighting some new artists, physical artists, poets, musicians. Hope to
Yeah, we'll do the hemp
like
guitar.
that.
We'll have to do the hemp guitar show out here.
yes.
Yeah. All right. This
Love
is,
it. Perfect.
you'd like that?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lynn. Thank you for joining us. Thank,
Thank
you
you,
to my
Joyce.
audience.
Thank
I
you,
love having
Dave.
live people. Like, woo-hoo.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
All right, another show, people. That's it for 2023. So for my guest right here in the Broccoli Gallery in beautiful Sharon, Massachusetts, and of course for my Canna Bro, David Jazz, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to the Canna Mom Show, where we are on a mission to enhance the impact women have on the emerging cannabis industry by sharing and preserving their stories of love, kindness, wisdom, and hope. Thank you for following and sharing the amazing stories of the women and men building the new industry so that together we can crush that stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I'm your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Canna Mom Show at the Broccoli Gallery, and we are a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.